what we hold, values that keep us grounded still. Stand up for what is right, don't let the world make your will. Freedom and balance, it's here to stay. So let's embrace this life our way. Tradition calls, if you don't stand firmly, hold it tight. If you let go the reins, you'll miss your connection. So share a smile today in this community that we build. With love and respect, that's how our hearts can fill. We carry forward, we know our truth. In this great land, it's our time to move. If you will stand firm in your lane, in new direction, hold it tight. If you let go of the reins, you'll miss your connection. Every moment with values exactly us in them, we find our hope. Tradition calls. If you don't stand firm in your lane, you lose your direction. Hold it tight. If you let go of the reins, you'll miss your connection.
You know I'm standing firm while the world keeps a turn, trying to shake my freedom, but I ain't gonna frown. But darling, darling, hold your government hand. All you evil can dictate, but I'm learning to stand with the spirit of the wild. Yeah, I'm ready to fight. I know more mind is cranking soul. I got my eyes open. Heavy, I can't sway. I'm fighting for the rights, and call me the free range mind. Never gonna waver. I'm a rebel with a cause. While others search for safety, I'll be raising my voice. Honey, I got my dreams and live with all my woes. I'll be living for tomorrow. Let the whole world know. Cause freedom not a game, it's a rhythm in my soul. Reaching for the stars, yeah, that's how I roll. Baby, I can't sway. I'm fighting for my rights, and call me the free range mind. Got a fire burning, and it won't be tamed. With every stride and stride I take, I'll always proclaim, stand tall, stand proud, let the people know my name. In the night we rise, in the morning the same. Baby, I can't sway. I'm fighting for my rights, and call me the free range mind. Times are changing, feel the buzzing, staying true when they're fussing. Keep the flag a-flying through stormy nights. With the star-spangled banner, I stand tall with manners. Cross my heart with hope in sight. Here comes freedom in the land of hope and free, with liberty.
Stick to values in the trends. Families gather, let's defend. Hold the line, keep the bond alive. Truth in our vision, in God we make decisions for our dream. Truth, thrive and strive. Here comes freedom in the land of hope and glory, with liberty. We'll keep fighting for what's right, standing strong in the night. Here comes freedom in the land of hope and bravery, with liberty.
In the heart of the jungle there's a whisper. John Birch, a soldier, takes the lead. With a spirit so brave he conquers darkness. On his mission hear the call, take heed. Through the shadows where wild winds blow, he's seeking the truth where few dare to go. John in the heart of the wild, John on a journey so styled, John in the heart of the With faith in his soul, he speaks to the lost, bringing warmth with every tale he tells. Through the valleys and hills where the rivers cross, he fights for the ones who dwell in the shells. With every step he dances with pain, unraveling tales that forever await. John in the heart of the wild, John on a journey so styled, John in the heart of the wild. Through the battles, through the night, he carries a flame, a guiding light. For every soul that's searching for peace in his heart, may the sorrow cease. John in the heart of the wild, John on a journey so styled, John in the heart of the wild.
In the shadows they stand, with courage so bold, fighting for the land, legends to behold. They whisper of hope, like tales of old. Right's wing heroes rise, their stories unfold. Oh, they carry the flame ever bright, guiding us home through the night.
In the shadows they gather, with their banners raised high, a song of defiance echoes beneath the sky. They rise up in the night with passion burning bright.
We stand for our rights, we won't back down. With fire in our hearts, we're taking the town. Against the shadows, we'll fight for our land. Together we rise, united we stand. With the beat of the drums, we'll chant and shout across the street or say the hearts of the crowd. No room for whispers, for fear and regret. But I don't story, you ain't seen nothing yet. We'll freedom we cherish, we'll make a stand. We're ready up to fight, time for our dance. You know I'm standing firm while the world keeps a turn, trying to shake my freedom, but I ain't gonna frown. But darling, darling, hold your goblin hand. All you evil can dictate, but I'm learning to stand with the spirit of the wild. Yeah, I'm ready to fight. I know more my spanking soul. I got my eyes open. Hey there, I can't sway. I'm fighting for the rights, and call me the free range mind. Never gonna waver. I'm a rebel with a cause. While others search for Satan, I'll be raising my voice. Honey, I got my dreams and live with all my woes. I'll be living for tomorrow. Let the whole world know. Cause freedom not a game, it's a rhythm in my soul. Reaching for the stars, yeah, that's how I roll. Baby, I can't sway. I'm fighting for my rights, and call me the free range mind. Got a fire burning, and it won't be the same. With every stride and stride I take, I'll always proclaim, stand tall, stand proud, let the people know my name. In the night we rise, in the morning the same. Baby, I can't sway. I'm fighting for my rights, and call me the free range mind.
You grab your guitar, I'll take my stand. We'll shout it out loud, the freedom we claim. You laced up your boots, tonight's just begun. Oh, we're singing for liberty, fighting for fun. Ain't no government leash, will let me be free. I'll follow my dreams, just you wait and see. They say we're all crazy, just rebels in line. But we'll raise our voices, we won't toe the line. Got my buddies beside me, we'll stand and unite. With every strum of the strings, we'll shine so bright. Let it try control, we'll just smile and wait. For the world that we want, we will surely bend over. Let's have your good trials, take my stand. We'll shout it out, Homer. You know stars, man, shout it out, start a spice at will, the freedom and land. You lace up the boots, the night's just begun. While we're singing for liberty, fighting for fun. When the stars align, watch the night light up. With the rhythm of our hearts, we won't give up. Hold on tightly to our dreams in store. With passion and pride, we'll forever soar. Grab guitar, I'll take my stand. Boss, you started out loud, the freedom we plan. You lace up your boots, the night's just begun. We're singing for liberty, fighting for fun.
In our little town, so serene, where the grass is green, the air so clean, we gather round the table every night. Joyful days, oh, what sight! With values passed, with generations past, living life with love that'll surely last. As the city lights look bright, we hold to our roots tight. In our hearts we sing those choirs, guided by the good old days. Sharing moment with friends always divine. Working hard for what we seek, respecting each word we speak, holding dear to our family ties underneath these nostalgic skies. As the city
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Culturama. It is so good to see that we have a lively audience already in the chat, and that's awesome. Thank you guys for joining the show today. I'm sorry for that slow start. I was dealing with a few technical issues, but it looks like everything's up and running. So it's going to be a great jam-packed episode. We have a lot to cover. A new executive order has been released, you guys, and it particularly relates to Desperate Impact. So we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about Jordan Peterson, as well as the baby bonus that Donald Trump has just passed, everyone. Ladies everywhere will get $5,000 if they decide to have a baby. That's right, everyone. So that's where we have come to now in this country. We have a lot to talk about, and I do have a lot of opinions regarding that. And also, on top of all of this, we have a special guest today, a disgraced propagandist. He is the writer of the Carousel. I'll show his Twitter in a moment or a little later down the stream here. But wonderful work that he does and in right-wing journalism. So we're going to be dealing with that as well as much more here on Culturama today. Now, I do see that we already have a donation in the stream so soon, and it comes from Quest Fanning for $2. Thank you so much, Quest Fanning. And Quest Fanning, you wrote, "Happy Thirsty Thursday." Thank you so much, Quest. That's wonderful. Thank you for your support and supporting Culturama. I know you are a longtime guest. And for those that are new, or for those that need the reminder, if you want me to directly respond to any of your comments or questions, or to perhaps cover a specific news story that you can link it into the chat, send in a Rumble rant. Rumble is a main place where I interact with my audience. Sometimes I do on Twitch and YouTube as well. But my main audience is on Rumble. So if you could send a donation there, not only will it go a long way in supporting the stream financially and everything that I do here, but it will also get me to directly interact with you. So thank you so much, Quest, for setting that strong example so soon into the stream, everyone. Let's see. I want to say hello, like I usually do, to everyone that has shown up in the stream. Let me see who's online. Obviously, I know Quest has donated. Who else? We have Nelson65. Welcome to the chat, Nelson. Wonderful to see you again. Hero, I'm the first member of the Culturama cult to arrive. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Nelson65. You are a prime Culturama cult member. You're one of the first. This is true. And you are one of the best contributors as well. And one of the biggest Leo fans. One of the biggest Leo fans also. So thank you so much, Nelson65. We have Bruiser55 as well. Welcome, Bruiser. Chris Cheese. All right, Mr. Pig is in the chat. And Pork Chop 159. Hello, Pork Chop. Very good to see you. It's so good to see already people piling in. Please like and share the stream. Like I said, if you can't financially contribute, at least the least you can do is to like and share the stream. Share the link to the stream to all of your group chats, all your secret group chats, everyone, and maybe you can get a few more people in here, especially when I have my guest on tonight. Given that everything technically works, God willing, God is good, everyone. Cross your fingers for that. Anyways, so I want to right away jump in, and this initial story I wanted to pull up for you guys because leftists and even some of the right-wingers, some conservatives, are making a big hubbub about this. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have seen this. Let me know your thoughts on this, but it looks like Trump 28 hats have been released, everyone. Are you guys ready for another Trump turn in 2028? I don't know about that, you guys, but before I talk about this briefly, I just want to remind everyone watching today that may be concerned about this and thinking that Trump will overstep his bounds and somehow run for president again in 2028. Guys, there are more than one Trump in this world, okay? There's more than one Trump in this world. Whether this means anything, we don't know. You know, obviously, there are more Trumps in this world, and everyone place your bets on who you think will run in 2028. And there it is, writes this Twitter account. Donald Trump is now selling Trump 2028 hats on his official website, even though it is unconstitutional for him to run again. Already the leftists are, I don't know who this person is. Maybe he's not a leftist, but already people are freaking out about that. Okay, here's another one. Laura Loomer said the exact opposite. The official Trump store is now selling Trump 2028 hats. Going to buy a few of these. Guaranteed to trigger a liberal, LOL. That's right. Now, regardless of what you think about these hats, I mean, obviously Trump's not going to run again. If he does, that's going to be an active episode of Cult Trauma, wouldn't it? God willing, we're still in the air by 2020 when 2028 arrives. But obviously, this could be interpreted in many different ways. Obviously, it could just be a joke. It's another way to raise money. There could be more. Like I said, there are more than one Trump on this planet. But it is, it is kind of genius that he or his team would release this, especially right now, this far along into his presidency. He's just maintaining the zeitgeist. In fact, I would dare say that Donald Trump is like the king of the zeitgeist. He knows how to stay relevant up to a point where he is giving people literal brain worms. So it's beautiful, the work that he's doing, and it's beautiful to see people's reactions of this. Would you guys buy this hat? Gives you something to chew on, obviously. He's looking stellar in that hat. I might get myself some, I don't know. I know some individuals that would enjoy this hat. But like I said, it remains to be seen whether Trump himself will run. I'd rather Barron Trump run too young than Donald Trump run again. Writes Chris Manning. Yeah. $50. Yeah, the price is ridiculous. $50. Obviously, hopefully it's limited edition, so it'll be a true collector's item. Just to own the libs distracts from the dismantling of the CRA, the Civil Rights Act. Yes, Mr. Pig, we will be talking about the Civil Rights Act. This is distract from the fact of the unraveling of the Civil Rights Act. And that's what I'm going to be jumping into next in this next segment here, right after this brief commercial break. But, in the meantime, everyone, just enjoy the emotes that I put in the chat there. And I also see here on Twitter that we are up against Tim Pool. So like I said, if you can and if you will, please do so. Like and share the stream so we can get out to as many audiences as we can, everybody. We're also up against Alex Jones, it looks like, in the Twitter live sphere. So, all right. Well, like Mr. Pig had mentioned, the Civil Rights Act, 1964, passed under LBJ, one of the more monumental decisions in American history that has completely changed the conversation and the zeitgeist of the Americans, of the United States, and all Americans everywhere. And it has fundamentally changed our culture. Obviously, it has changed the state of race relations, and that has naturally evolved since 1964 and onward on its own merit. But are there obviously any negative implications having to do with the CRA? Absolutely. And that's what I want to talk about on this stream moving forward today, you guys. So stay tuned. And we're going to be covering the restoring of equality of opportunity and meritocracy. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. Stay tuned, everyone, on Culturama. I will be right back. I'm going to play a couple commercials, and I'll pull the next few stories up for you guys. Thank you so much.
We stand for our rights, we won't back down. We'll fire in our hearts, we're taking the town. Against the shadows, we'll fight for our land. Together we rise, united we stand. We'll beat of the drums, we'll chant and shout across the street or say the hearts of the crowd. No room for whispers, for fear and regret. We'll write our own story, you ain't seen nothing yet. We'll freedom we cherish, we'll make the stands. We're ready up to fight, it's time for our dance.
In the shadows they stand, with courage so bold, fighting for the land legends to behold. They whisper of hope, like tales of old. Right-wing heroes rise, their stories unfold. Oh, they carry the flame ever ever bright, guiding us home through the night.
In the shadows they gather with their banners raised. This is what we hold, values that keep us grounded still. Stand up for what is right. Don't let the world make your will. Freedom and balance, it's here to stay. So let's embrace.
Watch me on Rumble, on YouTube, on Twitch, and on X this Saturday. And that will start at the same time, 5 p.m. PST, 7 p.m. Central Time.
What we hold, values that keep us grounded still. Stand up for what is right. Don't let the world make your will. Freedom and balance.
Okay, we are back here on Culturama today, everyone. And like I said, we're going to be talking about this new EO that has just come out. And it is going to quite affect leftists, wokies out there, especially people that were great proponents of DEI. As we already understand, Donald Trump has been an ardent advocate against for dismantling the unintended or even so the intended effects of DEI policies. But they are downstream from something else, and that is the Civil Rights Act. Now, there has been a slew of policies that have occurred after the passing of the Civil Rights Act, which, you know, did, like I mentioned previously, did impact and affect culture and discourse in the United States. But this one in particular, I'm quite interested in, and this has to do with disparate impact. Now, let me pull this up for you guys. Restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy in the United States. Executive Order, April 23rd, 2025. So it was passed yesterday. But let's just give a brief summary over what this means. For those that don't know what disparate impact is, I'll give you a quick rundown and then we will read more of this in other articles defining it. But basically, it's when an organization has what is a neutral policy that does not intend to discriminate, but if it does have long-term effects that may appear like discrimination, for instance, when you have a workplace that has primarily white people, that is now construed as having a negative impact on a particular demographic, like for instance, black people, and therefore that organization will be punished for it. Now, because of that is now being taken care of. For years, this has negatively impacted organizations everywhere in the United States. And how does it negatively impact them? How does fighting discrimination do so? Well, it does so because it eliminates the key components of meritocracy, one of which is, of course, merit. It's not hiring people simply based on the color of their skin or their sex, for instance. So let's read this over a little bit. By the authority vested in me as president and the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, I hereby ordered Section 1, a purpose. A bedrock principle of the United States is that all citizens are treated equally under the law. Okay? And that's the country that we live in. People are treated equally under the law. This principle guarantees equality of opportunity, not equal outcomes. That is right. It promises that people are treated as individuals. I'm a big proponent of that. I am a strong individualist. I don't look people collectively, and I am not a part of a collective. Yes, we can have generalizations more or less of human behavior, which we can predict certain behaviors, but you do not embody all of those aspects of that particular collective or group of people. Not as components of a particular race or group. It encourages meritocracy in a colorblind society, not race or sex-based favoritism, okay? Adherence to this principle is essential to creating opportunity, encouraging achievement, and sustaining the American dream. So far, I like what I'm hearing, but a pernicious movement, as this order continues to say, endangers the foundational principles seeking to transform America's promise of equal opportunity into divisive pursuits of results preordained by irrelevant, immutable characteristics. Yeah, I agree with that. Regardless of individual strengths, effort, or achievement, a key tool of this movement is disparate impact liability. Okay, that's what I just talked about, which holds that a near insurmountable presumption of unlawful discrimination exists where there are any differences in outcomes in certain circumstances among differences of races, sexes, or similar groups, even if there's no facially discriminatory policy or practice or discriminatory intent involved. So I'm not going to read all of this. This goes a little too long. I do have an article pulled up here, but that's the introductory paragraph. Now, like I said, this is huge. Okay, disparate impact liability, like I had mentioned, was one of the heads of the Hydra that has transpired following the passing of the Civil Rights Act under LBJ. LBJ, I'm sure, is rolling in his grave as soon as Donald Trump was elected president. He knew what was going to happen. Now, a lot of leftists are, of course, concerned. Progressives are concerned. Maybe some people on the right are concerned too, and saying that this perhaps will unravel or even, shake up the foundations of the Civil Rights Act and lead to the rescinding of the Civil Rights Act. And my answer to that is, yeah, it is. Because the Civil Rights Act has caused a lot of strife for a lot of individuals as well as organizations for quite some time now. Let's read this. Like for instance, one of these, disparate impact liability. It has completely killed off and eliminated the existence of any meritocracy or any culture of meritocracy to thrive in this country. Okay? Let's read this from The Hill. I don't know what you guys think about The Hill. LBJ, a Spanish blowjob, says Quest Fanning. LBJ, that's hilarious. Quest Fanning. Trump did not use the word immutable. Probably not. He obviously has professional writers. Okay, so here we go. The Hill. Trump moves to repeal disparate impact liability, a key civil rights tenet. All right, let's see. Can I play this video? Is this on Russia, I think?
Concessions, Mr. President, and to your national.
I didn't watch this video. I didn't watch that video. It talks about all the things that Trump has done. All right. President Trump has taken steps to nullify a key component to the Civil Rights Act as he works to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. All right, I've already covered that on this show. Like I said, big proponent of that. I appreciate him for that in his presidency. Is Trump good on some things? No. Like I'm going to discuss later about the baby bonus situation. Not the best choices, particularly that one, in my opinion. Now we'll cover that, but as far as DEI is concerned, as far as race relations in the workplace is concerned, and the diversity gospel, I'm a big fan of. Okay, as he works to remove diversity, equity, and inclusion policies from the federal government, one of the executive orders issued Wednesday, dubbed Restoring Equality of Opportunity and Meritocracy, I guess we can call this the REOM, would dismantle disparate impact liability, a legal theory codified in Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that holds agencies accountable, for practices that have an outsized discriminatory effect on protected groups, even when there is no intent to discriminate. So even when you had no intention, there's no mens rea here, of you actually doing anything negative to impact any group or any type of people, you still will be held liable for that. If it just happens to be that a certain group of people, for instance, work there. The theory, more specifications here. The theory allows a plaintiff to sue without fulfilling the burden of demonstrating intentional bias by pointing to practices that disproportionately affect protected groups. All right? One of those protected groups, I assure you, is not white people. It could be anything else, even women, but it is not the dominant ethnic background of the people in this country, which really makes you think, the majority of the people in this country is a particular ethnicity, perhaps not for long. That remains to be seen within the next 10, 15 years. But up until now, at least, they were. So naturally, it would follow that outcomes of certain hiring practices would reflect a certain amount or statistic of people working within that workplace. Especially if you only hire based on meritocracy, not favoritism, or favoritism of a certain demographic. So, anyways, let's continue. But conservatives have long argued that disparate impact clause punishes employers, an argument Trump's latest action echoes. Trump describes disparate impact liability as part of a pernicious movement, like we have just read, that endangers the bedrock principle that all American citizens are treated equally. Quote, disparate impact liability all but requires individuals and businesses to consider race and engage in racial balancing to avoid potentially crippling legal liability, the order reads. It not only undermines our national values, but also runs contrary to equal protection under the law, and therefore violates our Constitution. The memo adds that disparate impact liability has, in some cases, made it impossible for employers to use, quote, bona fide job-oriented evaluations when recruiting. The president's executive actions also direct federal agencies to identify and roll back regulations related to disparate impact and review all current lawsuits, investigations, and consent decrees currently based on disparate impact claims. It also calls for departments to work with the Attorney General and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission to change the interpretation of Title VI and Title VII of the CRA. Not bad. I think that's a pretty big win, actually. I think that's a pretty big win. Of course, that goes on to read, there's more involved, but this is my take on the situation. I know you guys were waiting for this one, okay? This is what I wrote, okay? And I want to expand on this. All right, get ready, you guys. Progressives are worried that this is a step towards undoing the legacy and impact of the Civil Rights Act. You ready? I just said this on stream. They are correct. Yes. The CRA has been an enemy of meritocracy. It's the gospel of previous generations, fashioning culture all to their advantage, however, none of ours as beneficiaries of this doctrine. Okay, what do I mean by this? I mean that within the previous generations, post-civil rights era, did have a certain culture involved in the United States, where we were trying to fight against. Obviously, we suffer discrimination in this country. We have sins in this country that well, not anymore, but we have dealt with, okay? And I'm not going to deny that. We did have negative race relations in this country. But resolving it in the way that we did under the administration of LBJ contributed nothing. Very little to it. In fact, it could have potentially, and this is an argument you often hear from the right, but it's somewhat true, it could have potentially negatively impacted black communities in America. But that has become, race relations particularly, has become the virtue, having positive race relations, it's the utmost, not only the virtue, but the gospel that embodies the zeitgeist of the previous generations, especially the baby boomer generation. Hello, Kermode Bear. Welcome to the chat. Thank you for joining us today. So we're talking about disparate impact liabilities here in this chat today. So, but for younger generations, Generation Z, Generation Y, upcoming Generation Alpha, as far as hiring practices is concerned, as far as work relations are concerned, this has completely eroded, like I said, a culture of meritocracy here in the country. And this has all led to what we now acknowledge are the toxic elements of DEI policies, diversity, equity, and inclusion. I want you guys to think to yourselves, like I said, the long-term effects of the CRA. Did it do some good things? I'm sure, yes. But the grand majority, especially today, has done nothing but ruin the race relations in our country. The original intent of the CRA, of course, was to, make positive race relations, improve race relations in this country. But what we have seen has been exactly the opposite, okay? You don't believe me? You think DEI was good? This article says that studies suggest DEI may escalate workplace hostility and racial bias. Believe it or not, Well, believe it or not, DEI actually ruins race relations in this country. Imagine that. Policies that were meant to improve them. I want to skim over this really quickly just to give you guys an idea. Study suggests DEI may escalate workplace hostility and racial bias. Okay, new data from the Network Contagion Research Institute, quite the name there, at Rutgers University suggests those preconditioned DEI narratives are more likely to accuse others of unwarranted bias. Wow, imagine that, right? Imagine that. As DEI policies have become a political tug-of-war in some workplaces, resulting in both positive and negative outcomes for businesses and individuals alike, a recent study by the NCRI, in partnership with Rutgers University, found that when exposed to DEI literature before evaluating a decision with potential bias implications, survey respondents in 3 different groups were much more likely to accuse unwarranted racial bias. So it's almost as if that these policies and the long-term unintended effects, or perhaps intended effects of CRA only made things worse in this country. And if you don't believe me, here's a scene from Am I Racist with Matt Walsh. I don't know if you guys have all watched this movie, but it is worth watching. It's really interesting. This is the outcome that they want. I want you guys to watch this and tell me if this appears like it's a positive environment and it's a healthy environment for everyone involved. Okay, let's watch this together. Of course, you're going to see Matt Walsh's antics as we proceed on with it, but just stick with me here.
Many decades, and it was a miserable experience. And really, the hatred of yourselves and each other is like the not seeing your power, the being afraid.
And then anyway, first, before you watch this, I do want to give you guys context. These 2 women here are paid a good some amount of money. I Googled it. It's called Race to Dinner. It's a program where 2 women go to affluent, liberal, white women communities, because that's their target demo, and they pay them up to $5,000. What are they paying $5,000 for? To get scolded at. Watch this.
All you do is talk shit about each other, talk shit about yourself. Oh my God,
So these 2 women are in dinner right now. They're either rented out a place or they're at some lady's house, okay? And they hosted the dinner for all the neighbors in the area, for the neighborhood, right? For all the women in the neighborhood. They put out posters or saying, "Race to dinner is coming here at this house at this time." So all the white women, they're only for white women. I think other demographics can join as well, but it is just for women. But it's primarily meant for white women. And they'll come in, they'll sit around the table, and they just virtually get scolded at by these 2 women of color. I don't know what this one on the left means when she says when she used to be white. I have no idea what that is. That's just that's the level of sanity we're dealing with here. But these 2 women basically scold all the white women there. And this is supposed to be taken as healthy and normal. I'll just play it, let it speak for itself.
That's all they do. I'm telling you, these white women.
But that's it. I'm so fat, I'm so stupid, I'm blah blah blah.
Sorry.
Your kids are watching you. And they're watching you talking shit about each other, raging against the machine or being silent or whatever the hell it is that you're doing or not doing. And they know that you're not doing shit for them.
That's so important. That is so important what you just said. It's really important. That's all.
We may have to add you to our team.
Oh, I would love to take a seat and join you.
No, you're not allowed to.
Okay.
Definitely not allowed.
Okay. I have my DEI certification that I got.
Okay.
So, not saying I'm an expert, but I'm also not a novice. So, okay.
White people are starved for these conversations.
We are. We're so starving.
Yeah.
We are so starving for this.
Matt Walsh was pretty
Anyone
good
else?
in this movie.
Want to say anything?
I'll just say one thing. I'm so glad we can have these conversations, and I'll be done. But I'm just so glad that we could all get together to have these conversations. That's all I wanted to say.
He has a DEI certification. I see Elijah Fire making comments in the chat. So just so you guys know, in the beginning of the movie, he did get a DEI certification, which he literally just bought online to do. You take a couple classes and you have it. But but that somehow he infiltrated this. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's my internal like disagreeableness. I don't know how these women can sit through this and get this.
An actor?
Are
you an actor?
Oh, no.
Can you let us? We're trying to listen and trying to have this conversation.
Okay, we're all acting all the time in our lives, and I think that's part of the problem.
You're getting irritated.
That's like we're all trying to play a part rather than just being real and having these uncomfortable conversations. And that's what I'm always trying to tell people, especially, white women. No offense, but
no, but see, like you're a white dude. There's power positions, and it's pointing white people pointing fingers at each other is not helpful.
I've been on this journey for so long, and just to see you guys at the table having this conversation has been really enlightening for me. Anyway, I got the DEI certification, and I'm just on the journey. All right, you ladies have a great one.
Decolonize yourself.
There you go.
Do your own
decolonize yourself.
White supremacy dismantling, and then you can start to bring in other people.
Can I just say one last thing? Can I just propose a toast? Just raise a glass if you're racist, and that's the thing.
Oh. Cheers. I'm not racist. Let me.
Oh my God. She's an alcoholic. Maybe she's not racist, but she loves to drink. I mean, imagine getting paid $5,000 to just drink and shit talk the people that invited you there. Amazing. These people really know how to scam other people from their money. It's incredible.
To racist.
Am I racist?
Anyways, it came out a couple months ago, but yeah, this event, like I said, costs up to $5,000. Yeah. Includes a 2-hour dinner party, facilitation by Jackson and Rao, travel for the hosts, and a post-event consultation. Excludes. By the way, the $5,000 does not include food. Okay, that's a different cost. So there's more. Target audience, primarily white women who want to engage in conversations about racism. So it's Regina Jackson and Saira Rao are the two women that we just saw there in the video. But this is, of course, the result of the dogma that we've had to undergo for the last couple generations at least, since 1964. Now, was this the intention of LBJ and those behind? Was this the intention of LBJ and those behind the Civil Rights Act? Probably not. They couldn't fathom this ever occurring in modern society. But this is what happens. You give certain people, you give liberals an inch, they will take a mile. And not only that, but those that are directly negatively impacted by this, white women, okay? And some white women are far more tolerant of this behavior for some odd reason, like it. They like this, they love to self-flagellate. They absolutely love to feel like the wrongdoers. And there's something very strange about positioning yourself in that way against these issues. And there's something weird about being guilty of something when it wasn't even your intention to do so, such as disparate impact liability. These are outright punishments against white people for existence. Obviously, I don't have to reiterate for you guys any further. I think you guys have a general idea of what I mean, but this is absolutely what we're dealing with, and this is what I've actually said before and I've written before quite extensively on. Now, I'm about to drop some information download for you guys. Okay, maybe some will agree with me, maybe some won't. But Western civilization, European civilization specifically, which has led to the founding of the United States, which is, of course, an extension of Western civilization, obviously. But it is within this civilization and within this paradigm of thinking and civilization building, in which is far more suicidal than the Eastern, for instance, or the global Southern, or the Orientalist, whatever you want to categorize it as. The antithesis of Western civilization. And what I mean by saying it is primarily suicidal is by saying that for some odd reason, and perhaps it is the benefits of Christianity, but Western civilization is a civilization and the culture that has brought out the virtues of egalitarianism, for instance, equality. It is the elimination of the natural boundaries that limits humans from, progressing beyond where they are. For instance, we still have religious orders perpetuating natural hierarchies in other countries. For instance, the caste system in India, still very bound by the limitations of nature, bound by wherever anyone's born in, whether they're born with an affliction or they're born of a certain sex that's discriminated heavily against in society, or they're born with a certain skin color that's heavily discriminated in society. They just have to deal with that because Eastern cultures are largely led by this adherence to the natural order. Okay, it's ironic to see a lot of people on the right wing right now, at least on the far right, talk about natural hierarchy, but that's a different story. But what Western civilization has done primarily well is push the virtues of egalitarianism and the dismantling of these limitations. But somehow through that, horseshoe theory is real, you guys. I don't know what to tell you. Somehow through all of that, it's very suicidal. Because, for instance, one of the extensions of this type of thinking through egalitarianism and the universalization of ethics, for instance, and human rights, primarily, is what leads to great works, such as eliminating slavery. But it also can lead to, down the line in the future, kind of negative stuff, like open border doctrine, where at the end of the day, we're leading in all these incompatible cultures, allowing them into our country, the host country, and we can't maintain our host country's culture. That's considered a sin. This is an offshoot, and this is the long-term effects of some of these virtues that we so held dear within Western civilization. And so, white women, therefore it makes sense when you think of it that way, why they may be so self-flagellating. Similarly, a lot of white men are the same way. Finally, they're fighting back against that, and you also see more right-wing, more women go within the right wing, in the folds of the right wing. But we are still dealing with the impacts of our own virtues that has led to the passing of the CRA, that has led to we are now being told that, that we need to decolonize ourselves as white people, and us having to somehow put up with that and be okay with that. So welcome to Culturam, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I saw that we have another donation come in. That was from, hold on, $2 from JJ. Thank you so much, JJ. It is so good to see you here in the chat today. You missed Tuesday's episode, but thank you for showing up in today's episode. You wrote, Rao is an Indian last name with single women in the West becoming more liberal than men. We are cooked. There aren't many conservative women out there, and I'm a certified ugly bastard. JJ, I'm sure you're not that bad. You got to give yourself some more credit than that. But yes, Rao, I'm assuming, is the woman here on the right. Or I'm sorry, my left. I don't know why you just said right. On the left of the screen here. So it's like in the beginning of the video, she said, as a white woman.
I used to be a white woman, an unsuccessful one.
I used to be a white woman, an unsuccessful one. Can someone please tell me what that means? I mean, maybe she means like as a passing white woman. She doesn't pass as a white woman to me. She looks, to me, I knock her as Indian, but I could be, I don't know. But JJ, yes. Single women, obviously more liberal and within the West, primarily white women. Now, there are going to be a lot more single Muslim women in this country in the next few years. That likely they're not going to be as left-leaning. We have a lot more single black women. They're not as left-leaning as white liberal women, as far as I'm aware. Maybe on some policies, but on not in the general consensus of it. But as I've talked about, sex relations in this country is still going down the gutter, but we're working on rectifying it. And one way we're doing that is, promoting certain ideas and values in this show that hopefully can be utilized elsewhere outside of the show, outside of the digital matrix, and that you can use within the relationships you maintain in real life, or IRL, as the kids say. Bruiser55 says, black women vote 93% Democrat. Yes. They typically are more single issue voters. It will be on certain financially related policies, if you know what I mean. But yes, black women typically do vote more Democrat, but that doesn't mean they're culturally liberal. I'm talking about cultural conservatism. Black women are still more culturally conservative, I would venture to say, than liberal white women. Okay, you guys, I didn't get to the baby bonus policy. I will get to that after the interview. But we're going to be talking about the baby bonuses. We're going to be talking about crying Jordan Peterson. But before I do any of that, I have a special interview guest on today. His name is Disgraced Propagandist. He writes for the Carousel. And I'm going to pull up his stuff after the interview. But I'm going to get him on. He's a right-wing conservative journalist, and I have a lot of questions to ask him within these next 30 to 40 minutes. And then after this show, guys, we have the Liberty Tonight show. You don't want to miss it. That's right after this show. So we have a limited amount of time, so I'm going to go to commercial break. I'm going to pull him up and see if he's available. Might take about 5 minutes or so, but hang in there. And yeah, it's going to be a really great interview, guys. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So stay tuned. Stay strapped, and we will be right back.
In the heart they gather strong, pushing back the lefty's throng. With the red banner held high, marching forward through the night. Promises of old will keep as the donkeys start to weep. Stars and stripes forever sway, in the land of the brave we stay. We've got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now, the Reds are going down.
With a flagpole planted firm,
golden dreams that won't decay,
marching proudly through the day.
In the eagle's shadow by, we find our strength and take our pride. Let the voices echo loud, tearing through the waiting crowd. We've got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now, the Reds are going down. Across the plains and mountains tall, hear the victory call. With courage and with might we strive, in the light of freedom's guide. We've got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now, the Reds are going down.
Well, here comes Danny Yellow like Marilyn with a twist. She's got a master's degree and a style you can't resist. On Culturama, baby, we're shaking up the scene. So hit that like, make it click, you know what we mean. Like and subscribe, come on, don't delay. With Daniela at the helm, we're leading the way. It's Culturama, taking back tomorrow today.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah. Who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Well, things haven't been so sweet for Ben & Jerry's after the company posted an anti-American tweet, a few of them, on the 4th of July. The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because They're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have glad you came out, and I'm so happy that you're queer. In the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hayford doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.
Hey, Liberty lovers, stop scrolling, because if you're tired of the same old news, then I've got just the wake-up call for you. I want to thank you for tuning in to Culturama, and I know that you're enjoying every minute of it. Join us at rumble.com/AP4Liberty. The Wake Up America show is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a great way to start your day. Coffee's optional, but waking up is mandatory. Remember, at Wake Up America, we'll keep you sharp, we'll keep you laughing, most of all, we'll keep you free. I'll see you in the morning.
Welcome to the Radioactive Exclusion Zone, where I talk to key figures in the conservative and or political right-wing movement. And I have with me Disgraced Propagandist. He's also known as Isaac. Isaac, welcome. Thank you so much for joining Culturama. You do great work. I follow you on Twitter as well as on Substack. But for the audience, please let us know a little bit about who you are in your own words. I said that, you're a writer, you're a journalist, but give us the rundown of your professional history so that people can understand.
I'm mostly an LGBTQ ally.
Okay.
That's mostly what I do. No, look, I'm just a guy, just a schmuck, just a parasitic guy trying to make money off the movement and trying to steal other people's ideas and make money off them. No, I have been involved in the dissident right since 2016. I was a big Trump guy in 2016. I really knew no one. In those days, Curtis Yarvin ran a thing called Urbit, and I became involved in Urbit and in a branding capacity actually early on, and that kind of was my foray into it. I'd already been writing a little bit about Frog Twitter and BAP and stuff as it was, but I was a total normie, complete normie. And then really only about 3 years ago did I launch myself as Disgraced Propagandist. I said goodbye to all of my normie libtard friends and family, and I just came right out of the closet. And, it's been 3 years in. I run a business called Will, where we make ads and branding for dissident causes and dissident things. We just did a University of Austin video that went pretty viral, viral enough for a piece of branding. And, it wasn't like huge, but it was, 300,000 hits or something. And, they did a whole segment on it on Daily Wire. So, that's what I do. I do a lot of writing. I write things. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I was somewhat aware of your work having to do with Curtis Yarvin, but that's great that you were, even initially back then, you were part of the, the vanguard for that. So that's really interesting. As far as I've been seeing a lot of people change the terms between dissident right to the ascendant right now.
Oh
I don't know if you've noticed that on Twitter. What are you aware of that, or have you seen that?
No, I hate it. I hate it.
Okay.
Anybody calling themselves ascendant is not ascendant. That's like one of those things. Like you don't call
True.
yourself that. So no, anybody saying the ascendant right is sadly mistaken and should be completely ignored and disregarded. In every
Interesting.
way.
Okay.
So
Dissident
yeah, no,
right
I've heard
sounds
people say
cooler,
that as
huh?
well. Look, I don't love the word dissident either. I kind of like, even though my branding agency is literally called a dissident branding agency, but it's actually quite. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to watch the stream here, and it just like came through. How do I? Oh, see, I see. Okay, I just want to like see what it looks like. No, so it's a difficult lingo, right? Anti-woke, yuck, terrible word. Dissident, not great. Based, not great. I think maybe my favorite so far is, neo-reactionary, also bad. Speaking of branding, there's no good word for it. I tend to like the online right, or the new right. I kind of like the new right or the online right. That's sort of what I prefer. The dissident right, it's like I get what it means and I agree with it and I use it a lot. But now, even when I go look at our website, the Will website, Will's the name of my agency, and we work with a lot of people in our sphere. It goes quite well. But so people do like it, like customers like it. But it used to be called based marketing. Now it's called dissident branding. Even now, when I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I don't really want it to be called that anymore, especially since we won like dissident. It's just kind of like a weird word. So,
yeah, the changing of language is quite, especially now in politics and online politics, it's constantly changing. It's incredible. It's really difficult to keep up with and to retain relevancy using it. There's there's a libertarian show called, I think, Based Politics. They're somewhat relevant, but it's just the branding, I think, doesn't work. It's really difficult to maintain relevancy when you use certain lingos like that. So that's understandable. But yeah, you do have a lot of experience in the right wing, obviously, like you just said. So I mean, you're a pretty well-read guy. You've had your experiences within this movement, or in the upcoming new right, or the new right now, as you just said. But what I've noticed, and let me know if you disagree with me on this, or if you have a different opinion on this, but it seems to me like up until now, maybe it's changing right now, but the right wing and conservatives have been very poor at output of arts, or of even some literature, I would even say, that is culturally relevant. That seems to be changing, and I think since 2016 that was a really big shift in the zeitgeist. So perhaps it's changing now, but the conservative movement and the right-wing movement has drastically struggled in this. So do you have any opinions as to why that may be, and why institutionally the left has occupied all of these spaces for cultural output? And do you think that is subject to change within the right wing?
This entire idea that there's no right-wing art is fake and gay and wrong. It's completely untrue. Go back 20 years. Look at like the year, just for example, like 2002 or something, or in 1998. Most of the movies that are making it that are hits, that are blockbusters, Armageddon, Michael Bay, all the Michael Crichton movies. Michael Crichton was a neo-reactionary, right-wing, hardcore right-winger. Okay. He was the #1 writer in Hollywood through all of the 90s. His books are based. He wrote a book in 1994 called Disclosure that is the most anti-Longhouse book you'll ever read.
Interesting. Okay.
All through the 90s, there's hardcore right-wing art. Of course, people are talking about the general sort of liberalness of Hollywood, but yeah, like, okay, that's because they like power and they like, banging dudes. And so that's what they do. But it's like this whole thing that there's no right-wing art. We're talking about the last 15 years. Before that, there was really no problem with this. Maybe a little bit.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Now, the past 14 years, yes, there's been a big friggin' problem. And I don't really think, though, it's because the right can't make art and the right, can't do this and we don't have any cultural resonance. I mean, first of all, anybody looking for an author, okay, show me any author that is culturally relevant. There aren't any. You know what I mean? We have the woman who wrote Harry Potter, who's vaguely based, right? She's vaguely based now. So, it's not really, there is no writing that matters at all. Yeah, sure, movies, ads, media, that has gotten longhouse as fuck. My world, yes, all the right-wing people got pushed out completely. That's 100% correct. But that's not really because the right can't make art. It's because the woke destroyed culture. They took over all the institutions and they communistically destroyed them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and I would venture to say that you're correct to that degree. You're right. Perhaps it's within like the last 15 years this has been really bad, and I do wonder though how the left, given how influential perhaps more right-wing creators of art were in the past, how has the left wing, I guess, snake their way into these major institutional, positions, because it is very difficult to create, perhaps you could say, like right-leaning media. Even still, like with this, and I'm talking like general slop for general audiences, of course, right? But like with the recent Snow White movie with Disney, I talked about that on my show a few streams ago. I had to. I didn't want to. I had to. But even that, Disney has taken minor financial hit after financial hit, and you'd think that they're starting to get the message. I mean, this movie was an absolute flop. Why do you think they're still trying to push a narrative, seeing the terrible success that they're getting, still doing this right now?
Because they're rotten. They're rotten like an apple. And an apple can't make itself not be rotten just because it wants it to, right? My favorite example of this, I mean, you're a Robert Conquest person. Are you Robert Conquest laws. So this is a very Yarvinian thing, very neo-reactionary. There was a thinker, academic named Robert Conquest, who was kind of a right-wing professor somewhere. And he is famous for these 3 laws. And his 3 laws describe institutional rot. And they're so dead on. And they're so perfect. And it's just a description of how, unless an institution is inherently right-wing, and even if it is inherently right-wing, over time it is going to slowly get taken over by managers and therefore become left-wing. And it's inevitable. And it becomes so left-wing, not only that it stops being right-wing, it actually turns against the original purpose of the institution, because people who are enemies of it have an interest in controlling it, right? It's like when George Soros controls the DA of San Diego so borders can flood over the border. George Soros doesn't care about San Diego. He doesn't like San Diego, but he controls it, right? Mm-hmm. So his final law is the best way to understand the behavior of any institution is to assume that it is controlled by a cabal of its enemies. And it's a really weird law, but it's great when you think about it, and you see it everywhere. My favorite example of it, do you know the Skull and Bones Society?
Yeah.
So Skull and Bones, Yale. We think, oh, Bush, it's like these elite WASPs, bluebuds. The Skull and Bones has no remaining white members.
Really?
At Yale, it is 100% black.
That's
or whatever.
Interesting. Okay.
And they rip down all the paintings of like the forefathers, and they put up like Antifa slogans. It has been reversed. It is now owned by its enemies, right? And that's what happened to culture. Culture got owned by the people who had interest in destroying it. And they're in control now. And yeah, of course they can't stop making stupid gay shit in the movies, because that's why they took control of it in the first place,
Fascinating. What was the name of the rules that you have said?
They're called Robert Conquest laws.
Robert Conquest laws. Okay. I feel like I should be familiar with that. So thank you for that, Robert Conquest laws. I need to look that up afterwards. And for those that are watching, highly suggest you do too. This is really great stuff here. But okay, so I don't know if you're a history guy, but if you could pinpoint a different time in history where we have seen something similar, like in a large at large, whether it be here in the United States or perhaps elsewhere in Europe, where you have seen this occur with the what's happening, what we have just experienced within the last 15 years, where the left has taken over these institutions. Would you say maybe it happened like during the 60s in the United States, or what would you classify similarly to happen in history?
Well, we're seeing this is a process that happens over and over again.
Right.
This is just the latest version of it. This is a particularly ultra strong version of this. So it's like, you know, if it's an earthquake, this is like an 8.9. This is like one of the big ones. But sure, I mean, all of history is examples of what you would call the academy being overturned by a movement of young, new people with new ideas who think that everything they did is stupid, and their art is revelatory of some new voice that this old regime didn't want to hear. So I think, you know, I mean, I'm probably wrong about this, but the Impressionists, is Monet an Impressionist?
Yeah, I
think so, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, they were in their time very radical, and you know what they were painting was not appropriate, and people didn't like it, and it was weird, and blah blah blah. But the establishment was so stale that they were able to turn it over, and then that became kind of the mainstream, and that's what's happening now. I mean, that's literally what is happening at this moment. It's just, I mean, you know, you have in art also what's his name with the toilet?
Duchamp.
Yeah, Duchamp.
Duchamp, yeah. Say it like I only read it. I never talk about it IRL. But yeah, Duchamp. Yeah, that was another one. No, absolutely. You do see this obviously within art specifically, especially visual forms of art. And it's always going to occur. You do have like this. I guess you're accurate to, and I see this not just within art but in other institutions as well. Like these cyclical patterns. Where you do sort of have, you know, certain political bents within various institutions, and they kind of come and go. And that's what I feel like is happening in the political sphere in the United States specifically, with the rise of popularity, funnily enough, of populism and Trumpism and MAGAism that is occurring. Do you think it's sustainable, though? I mean, in the long term, what do you think the future? It's a kind of a big question, but what do you think the future is following Trump within the United States, or if the mantle will be passed down? And to who?
The mantle of what exactly? What do you
of
mean?
like the Trumpian MAGAism or the populism that is so popular since 2016.
Like what's going to happen with MAGA?
Yeah. Yeah. After Trump
like what's going to happen to the
office.
movement? Well, it's a very good question. I mean, like, can they stay as charged up?
Yeah.
Given that they're in office, can that movement really stay charged? I wrote this very long article in the Frontier magazine, the new Frontier magazine, about this very question of like kind of what happens to the MAGA movement now that it has power. Does it sort of become destigmatized? This whole culture that's grown up around it with the hats and the, you know, ultra blunt instrument, proud American slogans. And the kind of, as we've talked about on my podcast, the kind of American kulak vibe, you know, like we're all here to create stuff and hustle, and we're hustle bros kind of at a core level. What's going to happen to all that? I think personally, it's going to, my sense, and this is a very negative view, I think that a lot of it is going to get absorbed into the mainstream. And I think that you already see it happening with the NFL. You see it happening with movies like Twisters. Mm-hmm. You see it happening with the Super Bowl ads. Suddenly Shane Gillis is in the Super Bowl ads, you know, and then it's all Bud Light trying to rehab itself. I think we're going to get this sort of hollow Americanism for the next decade. And I think that a lot of that's going to kind of de-escalate a lot of the MAGA movement. The question, though, is what'll be really, really interesting to see what happens is if these institutions were sane, they would allow this to happen. They're, as you just said, they're really not sane anymore. So it's going to be weird to see. I mean, you already see it happening at HBO, right? HBO now has this guy in charge. I forget his name. but he's like the money guy, right? He's known as like the money guy. And he's like, I don't care about anything. Just if your show sucks, I'm going to cut it. So that's already a move a little bit to the right, because he's like, I don't care about the content. If your show is bad, I'm just going to cut it.
Right.
So, but somebody like him, that will probably be the vibe throughout Hollywood, et cetera. It'll be like, well, we care about money now, and therefore we don't care about woke. And I could see that probably some of the people inside these institutions are going to go along with that, probably a lot of them. But I think the damage is too deep. I think the type of people that have been elevated into these institutions are so retarded and so totally useless without their political signaling that I can't really predict how this is going to end, because I don't think we've really ever experienced anything like it before. Like, it's going to be a massive collision culturally, and it's going to be really weird to see what happens.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Ever since following 2016, and I thought this was only because when I became more politically involved, and actually because I was like, I think 20 when that happened, and I started working for the Trump campaign, and that's when I first became more politically involved, and that's when I became more conscious of what was happening in this country. So I thought it was just because of that I've seen these massive changes occurred initially, but I was wrong. It seems like a lot of people felt the zeitgeist shift of 2016, 2015 era. And, you know, back then it was the alt-right movement, and the major changes we have seen since then to now is quite incredible, especially post-COVID. But it's really interesting. I think you're the first person on this show that said that it'll be absorbed in the mainstream. Because I asked this to a lot of my guests. I'm asked this question to a lot of the guests on the show on my show here. Is that what is the future of the right wing in America right now, and specifically Trumpism? And a lot of them didn't give that answer. So that's unique that you said that. And I do see your perspective in that it is sort of being like absorbed, but I do also see some elements of major institutions like Hollywood, Disney, for instance, fight back against it still, regardless of the absolute financial failures that they're having. But especially within the last couple years, especially I've noticed this since the Budweiser situation. I don't know if you remember that. With the transgender, I forgot their name, Dylan Mulvaney. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They definitely shifted their advertising, Budweiser did, and a lot of other more peripheral organizations did. So I think you could be onto something there. It will be absorbed, but that also begs the question of what will happen to the radical right wing. I mean, that exists, or what's considered the more radical right wing. And do you think then that what we define as a radical right wing right now, do you think that will also become more mainstreamed as Trumpism gets absorbed? Because back in 2016, Trumpism was very much aligned with the alt-right. It was considered, I guess, radical. Today, you're absolutely correct to assert that it's now politically mainstream. So, and in result to that, what do you think will happen with the radical wings of the right wing?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a similar question to whatever happened to the radical wings of the left wing, which they got completely BTFO'd by wokeness, and pretty much that killed them entirely. You know, this is before your time, and really before my time. But there was a time growing up where the hardcore, violent anti-globalists were leftists. And, they would, you're from this part, they would protest the, W8 in Seattle in all black and blow everything up. And that was when it was a bunch of white guys, what happened to that? And, those people basically got mind cucked into thinking that it was all about race, because they had all grown up in the suburbs anyway, and they'd never met a black person. And then once they did, they were like, ooh, you guys are cool. Let's, it was the same thing that happened to the hippies. Yeah. But, so what's going to happen to the actual fringes of the right? So you're seeing the same thing. There's some people being absorbed, and there's some people getting pushed out. And I think that probably similar to the left, the big wedge issue right now, I don't know if this will stay the wedge, but the big wedge on both far right and far left is Israel. And October 7th. And so on the far left, the cool kids now are anti-Israel, whereas the more centrist people are pro. And same thing on the far right. The more centrist, like, hey, we're cool, they're pro, and then the real far right is anti.
Yeah.
So you can see maybe a horseshoe thing happening with far left and far right on that issue at least. Insofar as some of the other issues, I mean, what I also see a similar horseshoe thing happening with like tech stuff, because we have the hardcore tech right is now all up in the administration, and I think that there's some far-ish right that are more environmental naturalist type of people, and I think they're going to kind of separate from the tech right. And I think the tech right will have the power, and the naturalist right will not have the power. And I could see that also sort of horseshoeing with the left in a way. So I think that we're kind of, all the lines are about to be redrawn, and who's in power and who's out of power is going to be totally redrawn. And I think that the far right itself is going to get kind of split, like in half.
Okay, yeah, brilliant answer. I agree with you quite a bit here. I'm glad you said it. As far as the tech right is concerned, absolutely. I mean, that's where the resources are, right? So that would make sense. Foreign lobbying, that's huge, and I'm glad you said that, because I don't see a lot of well, I do see larger figures on Twitter say, depends who, but it is interesting to see like what organizations, how they'll respond to this, particularly the involvement of, or our involvement in Israel, right, or with Israel. And I do see this absolutely within the right wing as much as now the left wing, since October 7th. But I do think, and I agree with you, that is going to the defining question of the right wing, especially moving forward. And you already see divisions occur with this, also in mainstream organizations like Turning Point USA and so forth, where, you know, they're, as far as for instance, their opinion on foreign lobbying is concerned, they remain silent on. And a lot of people, or especially younger people, if we're going to be honest here, like Zoomer generation, are calling them out on it. So what I predict, similarly to what you said, I predicted before that, I think that's going to be the defining question moving forward. And it'll be interesting to see where that goes.
But why are you saying foreign lobbying? I mean, it's not foreign lobbying, right?
It's primarily, yeah, it's primarily Israel. But the reason why the reason why I say foreign lobbying specifically, though, is because the nationalism. It's also, you know, our NATO alliance. It's also the UN and our involvement, whatever that may be with the UN. It's also, you know, the UN. I said the UN. I meant the EU as well. But all these like global organizations, and a more of a globalist, you know, approach to our involvement and our participation within the international system. But you are right to assert that it is primarily Israel, if we're going to point at specific nations. But what I was getting at with this is that this is also why I think initially why the political right-wing institution conservatives, when Trump first came on board, were really hesitant, because his campaign was in his platform was built on, you know, closing the borders, or rather, you know, protecting our borders. And they made a lot of issue with that. But I think a lot of people saw the writing on the wall there and saw that this would lead to bigger questions as far as our involvement with the greater world is, and particularly with Israel as well. And so it's interesting that you bring that up. And this is why you see, like, with the Trump MAGA populist movement, they're very nationalistic. There's this, you know, invigorated sense of Americanism within young conservatives today, which I think is reminiscent of that. So really interesting that you bring that up, and I would agree with you. And also bring up the tech right makes a lot of sense as well. I didn't think about it to that extent, but that would make sense. Well, regardless, pretty big questions, pretty big topics we've touched on. I did want to ask you one more question here before we sign off. Is you said that there are very little writers or authors right now that are influential. If there are any like figureheads or thought leaders or writers, contributors to the right-wing space right now that we should keep track, and of course, other than yourself, because you're a pretty big voice here, who would you recommend that? Because you're a pretty well-read guy, I'd say.
I will say I don't read anybody, man. I don't read anybody anymore.
Maybe
I really don't. Wrong. I mean, like people will send me. So you know, Saylor's great. Steve Saylor's awesome. Yeah. I love Saylor's movie reviews. I'm in there.
Actually,
yeah.
Hold on. Noticing. I have noticing. I can't get it out of my. There we go. Passage. I was just on Passage Press the other day, so or Passage Publishing. I got this. It has a Charlie Kirk endorsement and a Tucker Carlson endorsement. In there. Charles Murray and Anna. I can't pronounce her name. Katchian. Katchian. Yeah. It's a great read. I recommend this. Steven Saylor. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Who else?
Yeah. So Saylor is. The thing to understand about Saylor is he's the world's greatest blogger. Mm-hmm. He cranks out 10 articles a week. That guy's a effing machine.
Yeah.
And he's been doing that for 30 years.
Yeah.
So he is the art of internet writing. Steve Saylor's 10 out of 10. And I love his movie reviews. His movie reviews are his best thing because it's he ties in all these critiques and he knows so much and it's really well written and it's this is something the Red Scare Girls have talked about for a while. So I really like him. I like people that are doing something different. Of course I all the respect to Bap and Yarvin. I'll always be a fanboy of those guys because they were so transcendent and important and I still think they are. I'm still a big fan of them. But what I'm anxious to see, I want to see new shit. I want to see new things. I don't really want to hear about the political this and the world affairs and it's just there's nothing we've already done that. We've already done it, and it's Bab's podcast is still really good and there's still so many cool ideas in there. But honestly, I'm more leaning towards people that are pushing into the mainstream. Sam Hyde, everything he does, I look at. Gavin McInnes, I just saw Gavin McInnes do stand-up the other night. 10 out of 10, fantastically hilarious. Wow. There was people who were protesting outside. I'm right now, this isn't always the case, but right now, I'm interested in the art of bringing what we're doing into the mainstream. That's why I make commercials. I love commercials. I've always loved commercials. I make brand videos and commercials and brands because I want this shit to be big. I want this to be emotional. I want people to react emotionally to our ideas and our aesthetics and what we do. And I'm into turning the corner from Spengler. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about it to how do we translate that into a movie and an ad, a comedy special. So that's kind of what's most attractive to me now at this moment.
Okay, well, there you go, everyone. I would agree with every one of those assertions right there and all those names you brought up. Absolutely. It looks like we are reaching our time limit here. I still have a lot more stories to talk about. So I want to thank you so much for coming on my show. This has been great. The audience loves this conversation. Where can people find you? Of course, I'm going to put your Twitter and your Substack up. Is there anywhere else that people can find you?
Well, so let me just say that you came on my podcast earlier in the week, and it was really great. So everybody should go listen to this episode because we had no plan going in, which is actually rare for me. And then it was a great conversation, one of the best I've had in a long time. It was really, really cool. And you brought a lot of great ideas to the table, and we went to places I'd never thought about. All this esoteric Slav stuff was fantastic.
Yeah.
So I really think everybody should go listen to that. And yeah, that's the carousel on Substack. Also, I run an agency called Will, and it's Will the Agency on Twitter. That's what I've been spending almost all my time on now, just doing client work. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Disgraced Propagandist. Just follow me on Twitter. That's where all the magic happens.
Absolutely.
Or Substack.
I will pull up the Will the Agency on Twitter as well to show them. Okay. Thank you so much. Guys, we will be right back. Stay tuned. We still have a lot more to cover before the Liberty Tonight show. And let me play you guys your favorite commercial here. And Culturama will commence. Thank you so much, Disgraced Propagandist.
Okay.
Well, here comes Danny Yellow like Marilyn with a twist. She's got a master's degree and a style you can't resist. On Culturama, baby, we're shaking up the scene. So hit that like, make it click, you know what we mean. Like and subscribe, come on, don't delay. With Daniela at the helm, we're leading the way. It's Culturama, taking back tomorrow today.
You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock, we are forcing behaviors.
Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the four olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
If you don't force behaviors, whether it's gender or race or just any way you want to say the composition of your team, you're going to be impacted.
Well, things haven't been so sweet for Ben & Jerry's after the company posted an anti-American tweet, a few of them, on the 4th of July. The ice cream makers declared the United States was founded on stolen indigenous land.
Well, someone should tell Target that, because they're now selling swimsuits with tuckums in the women's section of the store. And they even have a line just for kids.
Yeah, we're going to reach out to Ben & Jerry's and ask them how they can live with themselves as they operate a multi-billion-dollar company on stolen land while declaring other people give up their so-called stolen land.
This is the child section. This is literally the kids section. I'm next to a literal onesie that says whatever the hell that means. We have glad you came out, and I'm so happy that you're queer. In the kids section. Are you kidding me? I'm sorry, but pride and toddler don't belong in the same sentence.
Good news! Starbucks will offer its workers reimbursement of travel expenses related to accessing abortion and gender-affirming procedures.
Kyle Rittenhouse was seen wearing a Black Rifle Coffee Company shirt, and they wanted to distance themselves from that individual. Key employees at the company also were donating to Democrats. Hafer doubled down on throwing many in his base under the bus, describing them as racist and a repugnant group of people.
Hey, Liberty lovers, stop scrolling, because if you're tired of the same old news, then I've got just the wake-up call for you. I want to thank you for tuning in to Culturama, and I know that you're enjoying every minute of it. Join us at rumble.com/AP4Liberty. The Wake Up America show is Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's a great way to start your day. Coffee's optional, but waking up is mandatory. Remember, at Wake Up America, we'll keep you sharp, we'll keep you laughing, most of all, we'll keep you free. I'll see you in the morning.
Okay, you guys, what did you think of that interview? I think that was a pretty impressive interview, pretty entertaining. I have my video pulled up here, but I'm actually going to show Disgraced Propagandist's Twitter here first. I hope you guys can see that right behind me here. Disgraced Propagandist, you can find him at Disgraced Prop. Very interesting posts. There it is, at right there, Disgraced Prop. He posts up, he retweeted the Culturama page, everyone, look at that. But yeah, he posts a lot of interesting analysis here. I like this one, went a little viral. An endangered species captured in its natural habitat. Look at that. When was the last time you guys saw someone like that, huh? In public? I live in the Pacific Northwest, so I still see them. But I'm sure they're dying off. So this is his Twitter profile. This is his Twitter profile, Disgraced Propagandist. And now, if you go here, this is his Substack. It is titled The Carousel. Highly recommend you subscribe to it. I'm subscribed. I'm not signed in on this computer, but I personally am subscribed through my Substack. I highly recommend it. There's our interview, Daniela Pensac, Real Life Kulak. There you guys go. Slavic paganism, Christianity, and Judaism. You could watch that. If you go on, but there are other ones. Kashuda's Betrayal. He just had a recent interview with Rob Henderson. So really good stuff. And here is the Twitter account that he has suggested we also go follow, called Will the Agency. You can find it at Will the Agency. Once again, highly recommend it. I'm actually going to follow it right now because I wasn't following it previous to when he came here. I just pulled it up, but highly recommend this as well. So there are his stuff, you guys. I can actually link it down below, and you guys can go and follow it. Also, I forgot to read Quest Fanning's. Quest Fanning, I'm sorry that I missed your donation. So I'm going to read that right now. I'm sorry you had to wait if you're still here. I'm sorry you had to wait through all of the interview, but I'm going to read it right now. $2 from Quest Fanning. You wrote, speaking of slavery, am I the only one that didn't get slaves when they finished their master's degree? What a jip. Beautifully said, Quest Fanning. Yeah, I didn't either when I got my master's degree. What's up with that? A very big jip. And he spelled jip also with a G instead of a J. Very well done, Quest Fanning. Thank you for your $2 donation. That was a funny comment. I'm sad that I missed that one. But anyways, yes, you guys, there's Disgraced Propagandist. Let's jump into this video, okay? Let's watch it together. We only have 20 minutes left of this show, more or less, so I really want to jump into the meat of our next few topics, okay? Listen to this, everyone.
Plan to encourage more women to have children by giving them $5,000. Fox's Alexandria Hoff explains from Washington.
The Trump administration is working on ways to inspire the next baby boom and is reportedly considering giving out cash to sweeten the deal. Earlier this week, the New York Times reported a list of proposals from the White House, including giving every American mother a baby bonus of $5,000 after delivery and reserving 30% of scholarships for the Fulbright program for applicants.
Yes, Quest Fanning, I'm familiar that JIP is a reference to gypsy. That's why I said it as such. Instead of the JIP, because that's what normally people write JIP as. They now say it as, I mean, that's how they say it, but it does derive from the word gypsy, which is now apparently politically incorrect to say. We're supposed to say Roma, but I digress. I like the authenticity. Quest. Thank you. Anyway.
Who are married or have children. Trump indicated his support from the Oval Office.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
These plans align with a push from the right to bring back family values and
this picture had made its run across social media, pissed a lot of people off. Just putting that out there.
About the falling fertility rate, which has been dropping since 2008.
Let me say very simply, I want more babies in the United States of America.
I'm just going to throw this out there. No one's going to agree with me on this. If they said the word children instead of babies, I think that would help their situation first. I don't know what it is. I personally think, and I saw someone else tweet this on Twitter, if they just said have children, I think that would soften the blow to a lot of people. It's just one of those things you understand if you do, you will never understand if you don't, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
It is the task of our government to make it easier for young moms and dads to afford to have kids, to bring them into the world, and to welcome them as the blessings that we know they are.
This is worrying because it's like, well, if something doesn't happen, humanity is going to disappear. So it's, I think, very important to have kids.
But many say $5,000 would barely make a dent in the cost of raising a child.
Some estimates put the average cost of raising a child in America at $23,000. By the time that child is 18, that's $414,000, not accounting for inflation or the cost of college tuition.
As of 2024, the U.S. ranks 145 out of 228 countries in birth rate. In Washington, Alexandria Hoff, Fox News.
So that just happened. Now, let's read this article quickly here. The government will pay you to have babies in these countries. Or, I'm sorry. The government will pay you to have babies in these countries. The reason why I'm pulling this up, you guys, is because I just want to speed run this article and show you that this has been done before. The baby bonus policy measure, where women will be given a certain amount of money to have more children in order to rectify lowering birth rates, is actually a very ineffective method. And if you look at the places and countries like Finland, Estonia, Italy, Japan, Australia, South Korea was another one that I see mentioned as well. Rates in these countries, regardless of this being a policy in those countries where couples or just women will obtain these this financial surplus and financial incentive to have children, it is ineffective every single time. It's very ineffective to raise birth rates simply because you offer them money. In Estonia, families are rewarded for having more children. The larger the family, the more money they receive. This, combined with other financial benefits and a year-long maternity leave, has helped birth rates rise, but could be improving or at least stabilizing the economy. Countries like China are struggling to recover from birth rates. More recently, Chinese policymakers are considering implement subsidies. Meanwhile, in recent years, Japan had its first fertility rate in 21 years. So this one says it worked in Estonia. Well, let's look at Estonian birth rates, actually. Estonian birth rates. Is that not what I've heard? Estonia's birth rate has been declining still, reaching an all-time low. Okay, it had a 1.1% increase. My mistake. I guess in Estonia, cash incentives work, okay? Cash incentives work. Immigration exceeded emigration by 550 people. They're still immigrating. I mean, they're still getting immigrants to come in the country. What's this chart? Let's take a look here. I only have 13 minutes left. My goodness. Estonian population grows mainly from immigration. I guess there's like differing opinions on whether or not cash incentives worked here. But if you guys look into this entire phenomenon, you can see, especially in East Asian countries, particularly in South Korea, because this was huge in South Korea, it primarily did not work. But regardless of whether it works or doesn't work, I'm sure in countries, maybe in certain countries in Europe like Estonia, it could make a dent in population increases. Finland, it certainly didn't work. But is this really worth it? And I know there's some people that will disagree with me here, okay? This is a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I really can't help but say that offering cash incentives for people just to have kids, first of all, you're buying off a kid, which is just ridiculous, but it's going to encourage the wrong people to have kids, you guys. It's going to encourage a lot of single mothers. Now, if we tailor this policy to only people that are married, women that are married, also makes a certain amount of income perhaps, then perhaps it'd be justifiable. It's an option. I don't think it will work in America. It's a cultural issue. And in fact, it's not just a cultural issue, it's an immigration issue, which I'll talk about here in a second. But it will most likely incentivize the wrong people to reproduce. And so the further question remains is, is this really a good idea? Are there certain types of people in this country that we really need to incentivize to have kids when they're primarily financially motivated? If they're primarily financially motivated, even for just $5,000 is a bit questionable. Like the woman has said in the video, estimated about 23, not this guy, different person, but it is estimated $23,000. She said, I saw other estimates, $25,000, $20,000, give or take. But having a kid is pretty expensive. It is not as, $5,000 will hardly make a dent. In this article by Self, I'm a 30-year-old engaged woman and nothing about a 5K bonus baby makes me want to have a kid. Okay. Libtard article, whatever. But they've totaled up that expenses of roughly $20,000 cost of a child's first year of life. Okay, she's estimated also $20,000. That's another rough estimate. And I'm sure if we just look it up and Google it, it would be pretty much similar. To start, there are costs of childbirth, which, if you have insurance, can total roughly to $15,000 for prenatal appointments, vaginal delivery, and postpartum care. $15,000. Or about $2,600 on average with coverage. Delivery with a C-section, because those are common these days, you're up to $26,000 without insurance, or $3,200 with coverage. $3,200. I didn't even know this. This is absolutely ridiculous. And also new data is just shown and released, showing. Okay, before I get to this, I want to ask you guys something. Do you think there are other things at play that are preventing women from not having kids, or do you think women are just choosing not to have kids just because? Because, you know, they're girl bossing it. The girl bossing option is a popular answer to this question. I know a lot of right-wing pundits like to say this one. And to a degree, yes, this is culturally involved. You know, culturally, it would make sense why less women want to have kids. They're more in the workplace, understandably so. But I venture to say, you guys, I dare say that's like the least likely impact that is causing this. I just got a $5 donation. Did I read it out loud? $5 donation from Dad Bod Baboon. Very good to see you, Dad Bod Baboon, and thank you so much for the $5. You said it's as if the media has never had a brainstorming session. You throw out a ton of ideas and see what works. The media tends to focus on the wildest ideas simply to make Trump look stupid. True, Dad Bod. Absolutely. The media will do whatever it takes to do that. Completely agree. Thank you so much for your $5. It's very good to see you. I hope you are going to be more involved in the chat down the line. It's very good to see you again. Now, yes, women are relying more on birth control and on abortion. Or they're simply not having kids. Virginity and also celibacy is on the rise as well. However, regardless of how promiscuous people say our generation is. However, I would also venture to say that there are greater impacts for why a lot of women don't want kids. It is of my theory that if you make the environment more serviceable and more comfortable for women to have kids, a lot more of them will. Not every one of them will, but a lot more of them will in due time. And they may have multiple kids. We are not presently in that environmental situation. For instance, breaking new data just released by officials in MA show Massachusetts spent over $7 million on housing, including migrant housing, this fiscal year. Why are our tax dollars funding free housing for illegals? The housing market is the worst it's been in a long time. Hopefully it will get better. It's projected to get better. I sure hope so. But they're giving our homes to migrants, you guys. 42% of Americans under 30 say they're barely getting by financially. Economically, we're not in the best situation. The likelihood of struggling financially drops for different levels of education, obviously. But over 2,000 adults aged 18 to 29, conducted by Harvard Institute of Politics between March 14th, 25. This is a study that was done on this population. The survey found that among the age gap financial insecurity most affected women, Hispanics, and those without college degrees. I mean, obviously, without college degrees, that makes sense. I mean, there's a threshold of success you can get, but you can obtain if you don't know what you're doing. You don't need a college degree. But the college sphere has completely decimated professional growth for a lot of people because now we require college degrees to do basic tasks. To do administrative work, you guys, even if you apply for customer service, some of them require college degrees and references, which is just so stupid. I don't understand why that would be. I mean, yes, entrepreneur, there's no good time to start a family, better start now, but there are financial motivators for it. You don't want to have certain couples to have kids if they're in a poor financial situation because you want to, increase the likelihood of children growing up in an environment in which they can thrive. Additionally, we don't want lower income people that are more susceptible to criminality to have children. That's just going to breed a cycle of more criminality. And, I'm just saying it like it is, you guys. We have to be aware of what we are doing here and why this is occurring. But the reason why I'm trying to mention the housing crisis and, the economy and all this, I think it all leads up to this issue. This was put out by the Center of Immigration Studies, and it has said that the impact of immigration has a direct effect on U.S. fertility, or the total fertility rate, TFR. I'll just read this part because I only have 5 minutes on the stream. But it states that the summary of the study says that with fertility having fallen below replacement level in the U.S., The Congressional Budget Office projects that deaths will outnumber births by 2033. Although some advocates look to higher fertility immigrants to end the baby bust, because we're relying on immigrants to do that, the direct impact of immigration on national fertility is too small to achieve replacement level. Furthermore, evidence suggests that immigration indirectly depresses native fertility, especially among the working class. And the working class is a grand majority of the United States. Immigration increases the national total fertility rate only slightly. And this is not by the host nation. This is not by the natives. This is by the immigrants. And even if we do allow immigrants from questionable cultures to come into our country and have kids, it doesn't even increase that drastically. It is a solution, and it may even be a long-term solution, but is it a good solution? Do we really want to rely on foreign nationals to compete with the native population here? Now, I don't have time to read all this entire study or the key parts of the study, but as this study has found, the analysis measures the impact of immigration on fertility simply by averaging immigrant TFR, total fertility rate, with that of natives. In other words, it assumes that a native TFR of 1.73 in 2023 would exist in the absence of any immigration, and that immigration does not alter it. In fact, recent research suggests that immigration impacts native fertility, positively in part, but mostly negatively, through a variety of mechanisms. So these are the mechanisms. It lists childcare, wages and employment, obviously, housing, which we have just talked about, where in Massachusetts they're giving out homes to migrants. Diversity, it makes people uncomfortable. Different cultures does not create a positive culture within a host nation, believe it or not. And other combined effects. So, like I said, I don't have time to read all of this, but maybe perhaps there are other policies that we could push forward that will have more longer term effects in this issue than incentivizing the wrong people to reproduce. And I think that would be a better option, personally. Okay, I have only 2 minutes left, you guys. Quite unfortunate, because I wanted to talk about Jordan Peterson, but unfortunately, everyone, we don't have time for Jordan Peterson. Maybe I'll talk about him in the next stream. I hope I didn't freeze. I think I froze earlier. Did I freeze earlier? No, I'm not. Okay. Okay, I froze there momentarily. Sorry, guys. You guys, I still had a lot of things to talk about. I want to talk about Jordan Peterson, and I also want to talk about India and Pakistan. It looks like we won't have time for that because we do have the Liberty Tonight show. Now, every Thursday, for those that are new here, I do have to cut my show exactly at 2 hours because we have the Liberty Tonight show, and as per the agreements of my contract, I am to give them the spotlight. But that is because they deserve that spotlight, because they are so damn funny. So I recommend you go watch them. They are part of the For Liberty Network, just like I am. And let me drop a link in the chat for them. So give me a second, guys. Let me find them on Rumble and drop the link. Of course, Quest Fanning, thank you everyone that's joined. Rumble, let's see if they're live now. Oh, and we also have, before I leave, we got $5 from Entropy Nomad. Thank you so much, Entropy Nomad. You wrote, Daniela, your voice is appreciated and needed. God bless. God bless, Entropy. Thank you so much for joining the stream today. Okay, Liberty Tonight. I think, Entropy Nomad, you're the one that suggested a custom emotes. Thank you. I'm going to be making more. Okay, they are live, so I'll drop the link in the chat.
Okay.
So everyone go to the Liberty Tonight show. I just dropped the link in the chat, so feel free to join. Thank you so much, everyone. Let me do my outro. Let me do my outro here. Hold on a second. God bless everyone. Let's keep taking charge of the zeitgeist here in the United States. What else can I say other than let's take back tomorrow today, everyone? Keep promoting traditionalist American values. keep promoting Western civilization and culture here in the States and the virtues that we have promulgated up until now, before postmodernism infected major institutions and completely eliminated that from us. Virtues of egalitarianism, meritocracy, and individualism. Thank you guys, everyone, for joining the stream today. And I will be, I believe, streaming again next Tuesday. Saturday, this gaming Saturday. I'll be playing Hollow Knight again. So if you're interested in that, consider joining the gaming stream on Saturday. We start at 5:30 PST, 7:30 CT. But otherwise, until then, guys, good night and God bless. I'm going to go on my off screen here. Thank you, everyone. Let's all participate in the zeitgeist together. God bless.
In the eagle's shadow by, we find our strength and take our pride. Let the voices echo loud, tearing through the waiting crowd. We've got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now, the Reds are going down. Across the plains and mountains tall, hear the victory call. With courage and with might we strive, in the light of freedom's sky. We got the power now, in the heart of every town. We've got the power now.